Have you ever had one of those nights where something just feels wrong, but you can't quite explain why? That was me, standing barefoot on my driveway, staring at the gaping space where my SUV should have been parked. My heart slammed against my ribs. The air was still, unnervingly quiet, except for the distant whir of a lawnmower somewhere down the block. My car wasn't there, and this isn't some random neighborhood. No, this is Whispering Oaks HOA, a place where homeowners measure their lawns with rulers, schedule meetings about mailbox paint colors, and issue passive-aggressive emails if your trash bins linger outside for more than 10 minutes. Presiding over all this? The self-appointed queen of the cul-de-sac, Karen Mallister. She's ruled the HOA throne for 6 long years, and in her head, she's not running a neighborhood, she's running the Pentagon. Then there's her son, Tyler, 19 years old, entitled to the bone, and convinced that stop signs are merely suggestions. At first, I thought maybe my SUV had been towed. Maybe I parked too close to the curb. But then I saw it, the tiny, cheap metal lockbox under the porch light where I kept my spare key. It was cracked wide open. Someone had pried it apart. My stomach knotted. Whoever took my car knew exactly where to look. I bolted inside, grabbed my phone, and called the police. While I waited against my better judgment, I texted the neighborhood group chat. Huge mistake. Within minutes, the thread lit up like a bonfire. And who else but Karen was first to respond? "This is why we need stricter security," she typed. "Some people don't lock things properly." Thanks, Karen. Really helpful. But the next message, the one from one of the teens, made my blood run cold. "Wait, isn't that your SUV at the Mallister's place?" Tyler posted a video in it. I opened the attached clip, and there it was. My car, my engine, my license plate. And Tyler is behind the wheel. Music blasted from the speakers as he revved the engine, his grin stretching ear to ear, a red Solo cup sloshing in his hand. "Let's go!" he yelled before tearing out of the driveway. The rest of the night blurred together. The police tracked my SUV through its built-in GPS. They found it abandoned and impounded. Tyler Mallister had been arrested. Reckless driving, DUI, and property damage. And that last charge? That was the punchline. He'd plowed my SUV straight into his mother's own fence. The same fence she fined me $75 over last month because the paint didn't match the HOA-approved shade. The poetic justice was almost beautiful. I should have been laughing. But deep down I knew this wasn't over. Karen wasn't the kind of woman to let public humiliation slide. Sure enough, by sunrise, there she was, on my porch. When I opened the door, she stood there in her pastel pink tracksuit and oversized sunglasses, clutching her clipboard like it was a royal scepter. Her lips were tight, her jaw locked, a forced smile that barely hid her fury. "Good morning," she said, her tone sugared and sour all at once. "We need to discuss what happened last night. Tyler made a mistake." I crossed my arms. "A mistake?" "He stole my car, Karen. That's grand theft auto." Her lips vanished into a thin, pale line. "Now let's not use such inflammatory language," she scolded. Tyler borrowed it. "He thought he had permission." I blinked slowly. "Permission from who exactly?" She sighed, throwing her head back dramatically as if I were the unreasonable one here. "He told me you've always been friendly. He assumed it wouldn't be an issue to borrow it for a quick trip to a friend's house. Things got out of hand." "Out of hand?" I repeated. "He was drunk, Karen, and he crashed into your fence. That's when the mask cracked." Her face flushed red. "Exactly," she snapped. "Do you have any idea how much damage your vehicle did? That fence cost nearly $8,000. You'll need to take some responsibility here." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "You're blaming me because your son wrecked my SUV into your fence?" She lifted her hand like a judge calling for silence. "I'm simply saying, as a member of this community, you should handle this matter privately. There's no need to involve the police or the HOA board. It reflects poorly on all of us, and there it was, the real reason she was on my porch. Not remorse, not an apology, control. She wanted to rewrite the story before anyone else could." I leaned in slightly. "Karen, your son is in jail. The police are already involved. This isn't about appearances. This is about accountability." Her nostrils flared. "If you pursue this, she hissed. "You'll make enemies in this neighborhood." People talk. "And I'd hate to see you get fines for unrelated issues." A classic HOA threat, sugar-coated and poisonous. She thought she could scare me into dropping the charges. But this wasn't just about HOA games anymore. This was personal. "I'm not backing down," I told her flatly. "Tyler needs to face the consequences. And so do you. If you think you can manipulate this..." But she was already turning on her heel, muttering something about ungrateful neighbors. Her clipboard swung at her side like a weapon. As she stormed off, I knew this wouldn't be the last I'd hear from her. Later that afternoon, my mailbox told me everything I needed to know. Thick, cream-colored paper, embossed Whispering Oaks logo, the faint scent of lavender perfume. I didn't even have to open it to know HOA violation, unauthorized vehicle conduct. Karen had declared war. She didn't just run the HOA, she was the HOA. Every fence color, lawn height, mailbox angle, Karen Mallister's word was law. I ripped the envelope open. "Dear resident," it began, "you violate community regulations regarding improper vehicle conduct, including reckless endangerment and public disturbance. A fine of $500 will be imposed pending review by the HOA board." I stared at the letter, jaw tight. Improper vehicle conduct. My car had been stolen, and somehow Karen had twisted the entire situation so that I was the one in trouble. I stormed back inside, sat down at my desk, and pounded out an email to the entire HOA list. "To be clear," I wrote, "your president's son stole my car, drove drunk, and crashed it into her fence. Now I'm being fined for it." The replies started flooding in within minutes. Some neighbors were furious at her. Others predictably defended her. Let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe he had permission. Classic Whispering Oaks. Half the neighborhood was too scared to cross Karen, even when the truth slapped them in the face. That evening, I showed up at the emergency HOA meeting Karen had called. The entire board was lined up in metal folding chairs like a budget courtroom jury. Karen sat at the front like a judge, clipboard gleaming beneath the buzzing fluorescent lights. "Let's begin," she said smoothly, her voice sugar-slick but hard underneath. "We're here to address the incident involving Mr. Jacobs' vehicle." I rose to my feet. "You mean the incident where your son stole my car?" A ripple of gasps moved through the room. Karen's jaw twitched, but she didn't flinch. "There's no proof of that allegation," she said coolly. "All we know is that an accident occurred involving your vehicle and HOA property." I barked out a bitter laugh. "No proof? He posted the video himself, Karen. Tyler filmed the entire thing." Her expression hardened to ice. "Videos can be edited," she replied, like a politician dodging a question. The audacity left me momentarily speechless. But before I could fire back, a quiet voice rose from the board table. Mr. Patel, the usually reserved board member, held up his phone. "Actually," he said, "I have the police report right here. It clearly states that Tyler Mallister was arrested for DUI in Mr. Jacobs' vehicle." The room fell silent. "You could have heard a pin drop." Karen's face went pale, but she forced a tight smile, grasping at straws. "Well," she stammered, "even if that's true, it doesn't excuse Mr. Jacobs' negligence in securing his property." And in that moment, it clicked. She would never admit fault. Not even with evidence in her face. The board eventually voted to suspend the fine pending further review, but the way Karen glared at me told me this wasn't finished, and it wasn't. Because that night, someone keyed my SUV the next morning. I stood by my car, running my fingertips over the long, deliberate scratches carved across the entire driver's side. Whoever had done this hadn't just acted out of anger. They'd made a point. The responding officer looked down at the damage and shook his head. "Same kid as before?" he asked. I shrugged. "Could be. Or someone trying to send a message." He snapped a few photos, added them to the case file, and drove off. I wasn't even thinking about the repair bill at that point. I just wanted the truth out in the open. And then I remembered. My doorbell camera. I opened the app, scrolled through the clips, and froze at the 1:37 a.m. recording. A hooded figure crept up my driveway. As they passed beneath the porch light, the hood slipped just enough for the camera to catch a flash of blonde hair pulled into a distinctive ponytail. Karen. I replayed the clip 3 times just to be sure. There she was, the Queen of Whispering Oaks, the HOA president, vandalizing my car. I could have called the police right then and there, but I decided to be patient, strategic. Instead, I sent another email to the HOA board. This time, I attached the doorbell footage and the official police report confirming Tyler's arrest. If anyone still doubts the kind of leadership we have, I wrote, here's your proof. The neighborhood's inbox practically detonated. One board member resigned. Another demanded an emergency vote to remove Karen as president. The footage spread through Whispering Oaks faster than gossip at a Sunday barbecue. By nightfall, Karen was on her porch, reporters flashing cameras in her face. Her once perfect composure was in tatters. She shouted about defamation and false narratives, but it didn't matter. The board voted her out that same evening. As for Tyler, the charges stuck. Suspended license, community service, a hefty fine, poetic justice. And the fence he destroyed? It got repaired by the very same contractor she'd fined me for hiring months earlier. The irony was almost cinematic. A few weeks later, I got another envelope in the mail. No lavender perfume this time. Just a plain letter with an apology from the new HOA president and a full refund of my pending violation. That night, I parked my SUV in my driveway, double-checked the locks, and looked over at Karen's house. The blinds were shut tight. A for sale sign sat in the front yard. Whispering Oaks felt quieter, like the whole neighborhood could finally exhale. And me? I learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a Karen with a clipboard, but never underestimate a neighbor with receipts either. That's all for today's story. Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you've ever gone toe-to-toe with a Karen in your neighborhood, you know, things can get wild. Like, comment, and subscribe. Because trust me, there are more stories where this one came from.